My normal fishing is quite limited really. I have a syndicate ticket, but quite often I can't get out, and I try and sort of mix it up a bit really to keep my fishing fresh and enjoy it more really. You can get quite stale just sat on the bank on a syndicate blanking, so sometimes it's nice to get out there, get some runs and enjoy yourself and get a smile on your face. I like fishing day tickets because the variation, there's normally more of a stock of fish, so you've got more chance of bites, and I just like the sort of, it's a bit of competition really. You sort of get that time when you've got to slot in between an angler and make the best of a situation. A lot of them are busy, but they've got some big carp in and some real stunners as well, and that's what I really want to try and fish for. So when I arrive at a day ticket, first thing is I pick a bucket up out of my car and I go for a walk. Any lake, always walk round it because you've got to find them. Now I try and get there on the gate at the best time of the day when it's obviously fish showing, and I've obviously got more chance of seeing a group of fish and where they're sort of moving, where they're acting. I will watch for a good 10 minutes in 3 sort of different areas. I try and segment the lake and I watch for a good time, and when I've decided which sort of area the fish are predominantly, it's then a case of just sort of choosing between maybe 3 or 4 swims, sometimes 1 swim. Normally I just go and get the leading rod. I just want to try and find a quick area, maybe I can get a quick bite, and that's just my spod rod with braid main line and a lead. I just flick it out and try and find a spot amongst the fish or just off to the left or right, so that I'm not directly sort of disturbing them while they're in residence, and try and find a gravel spot, bit of silt or something like that. I'm then wrapping it up and get my 3 rods in exactly the same fashion. And what I like to do, a lot of anglers will rather put solid bags out, something like that. I tend to try and be as accurate as I possibly can with some sponsor bait. So I'll put my 3 rods out on that spot I've just found, and I'll put 7 spoms out. It doesn't have to be a lot, that's hardly any bait really, but at the same time, it's just enough to get a bite. I found a little gravel spot, pulls up nice and then hits quite nice dense weed. So I'll fish off the back of it, and hopefully I can catch a fish quite quickly. All 3 rods went out first time. I got really good drops and I was really hopeful of a bite. I didn't look to have disturbed the fish at all. They were still showing in numbers. And it was only 20 minutes and I got my first bite. Fish weeded me up quite quickly, and unfortunately after about a minute it fell off. I think it was just a simple hook pull, but I was a wake up call that the fish were there. They were in there in numbers, they were still showing, so I got the rod sorted, wrapped up, new rig and hook bait, and I got the spoms out there perfect, and I was really hopeful of another bite, to be honest. It's a testament to my approach of just using 7 spoms of bait. That's not a lot of bait, but by spodding it nice and tight, I'm keeping that area nice and concentrated, and when the fish arrive, there's a nice bounty for them to have a bit of a feed up. Around 2 o'clock, the sort of showing reduced. I think they got up in the upper layers and maybe moved over to the shallow area where there's no available swims. So I thought, well, this is the best time to really get the rods perfect for the night. I didn't want to spot at 7 o'clock at night because I didn't want the disturbance in the evening. I reckon bite time's around 5 o'clock onwards, and I really wanted to have everything ready for when the fish turn up. I've decided to add a real big hit of bait. I'm talking a bucket of bait, kilo of sweet corn, and a good hit of boilies as well, with all the liquids involved. I wanted to get that spot really working and hope for a bite for sort of the early evening time and late into the night. It's really important to do this early in the day. The worst thing you can do is start spodding and casting out and trying to find spots at bite time. 7 o'clock at night, say for instance, the best time for me was to get it out sorted at 2 o'clock, and then when the fish did turn up, there was absolutely no disturbance. My rods were absolutely perfect, and I was really confident of a bite. So my rig choice when fishing a day ticket water has a couple of key elements. I'm fishing a semi-stiff hook link that sits over the gravel spots that I'm fishing. A nice hard spot means that I can fish quite a stiff hook link and it will lay lovely and flat over the top. It also means that when a fish picks up the bait and spits it out, which obviously happens quite often with big packs of fish, it's always going to sort of present itself and be perfect ready for the next fish to come pick it up. So to tie my rig, I literally get a fang gyro, I add my piece of shrink tube. Then I shrink the shrink tube down so it's nice and neat over the top of the swivel on the gyro. That sort of keeps it in place and gives me the sort of swivel element with the big ring swivel and the small part of the swivel as well. I had a small hook bait swivel and a little bead as well on the shank. I use a fang gyro because they're nice and reliable, real strong. I always worry about the quick change element of the swivel sometimes, how obviously it's not meant for purpose. We've built the swivel in for a reason and it keeps it nice and strong. So for my boom section, I'm using the 25-pound skin link. It's ideal because it's nice and stiff, so it allows me to cast out. It keeps the lead and the hook bait separate on the cast, stopping tangles. So onto my skin link, I attach a tungsten knot bead. It fits perfectly over the knot. It's dead simple. There's no messing around with putty, and it allows me to create that really nice slow sinking hook bait with the culture popper. So after I've located the carp, the bait is the most important thing. I've got to hold the fish. I'm competing against other anglers and I want my bait to be the most attractive I can possibly get it. I like to fish a spod mix with lots of small particles. It keeps the fish in the area for longer. It means you can hold a big shoal of fish. I like loads of small bits that really spread out on the swim. I want 3 rods tight on the spot and I want to be able to pull fish in. My bait is acting like my feature. As soon as I've found that gravel spot, I want the fish to really come in, investigate, take a few mouthfuls, and they really start to compete over the bait, and that's when I can build these really big hits of fish. My go-to mix is all season. I never really change it because it's so consistent. It's mainly made up of 12mm Scopex squid boilies. I then add the matching flake boilie, about 1 kilo of sweet corn, and some spod syrup. We do a really nice squid syrup now, and it's brilliant for glazing baits, mixing up and getting that liquid content in there that soaks right into the bait, makes them nice and soft and produces that lovely little oil slick that you get when you spot the bait out. So I like to prep a bit before I go fishing. I start off with getting a 5 kilo bag of the 12mm Scopex squid. I add some water followed by the squid syrup. I glaze it over nicely, shake it up, and then I leave them to soften up, take on all them lovely juices so they're really hydrated and they just break apart in your fingers. I like to use stabilised boilies because quite simply I can keep them in the van at all times. I'm not worried about them going off. It means I can just get fish in. Alternatively, if I haven't used all that I would have thought in the session, then I simply put it back in the van and use it another time. Similarly, I treat my boilies and my flake just the same. I add spod syrup to the flake, mix it through thoroughly and let it soak all up that goodness. It means I can sort of crush it in my hands, it goes tacky and it's lovely and soft, again aiding digestion for the fish and allow me to get quick bites. So when I've treated all the baits up, I add the flake and the boilie together in a big bucket along with my sweet corn, and then I give it another good helping of the spod syrup just to increase that attraction even more, really pull the fish down to the spot. Going into the first night, unfortunately I lost one just after 20 minutes of fishing, but I think the area is perfect. It was over minimal bait, so I've topped it up with a bit more and I'm really looking forward to the night because I think I've got a really good chance of a bite. The wind started to die down in the evening and it went flat calm. I was full of anticipation and I was really confident of a bite. Right on last light, that bite came. It was around 9 o'clock and the rod busted off and I was really buzzing to get my next bite of the trip. Spark the burner. Right, so just talked to you guys not long ago and we're into our second bite. This one feels nice and heavy. Weeded me up quite early on in the bite, but I've been fishing quite tight clutches, so it didn't get too far. Feels like a nice fish, feels pretty heavy. It's kiting very far around here though, so I might have to do some manoeuvring. Ooh, first one. Unhooking the fish, it really stripped some line, to be honest. It was going right out to the middle of the lake, but I managed to get it under control and started pumping it back with a bit of side strain. It did kite quite far right, and I picked up the angler next door's line, and unfortunately it came off then. Yeah, look, pulled me out, pulled out of it. It was a bit of a devastating blow, but at the same time it was really good to see the bait working, and I was really confident of more action. I think where it got caught up, I think it's caused a bit of a weakening in the hook hold, and pop goes the weasel. So, get the rig back out. Now I go. Just gone first light, about half an hour ago, my first fish. Lovely 20 pounder, it's in the little retainer in front of me. And I'm attached to another one, in the same rod I've just replaced. Put 5 spoms over the spot. And it's tanked off straight away. The next bite came at first light. It really took line on the take, and it took me a long while to get it in, to be honest, maybe 15 minutes. But in the end, I slipped the net under an absolutely awesome golden common carp. It looked like a good 20, but it's key to make the most of them feeding intervals, so I was quick to get the rod and the spods back out on the spot, really sort of build the swim, and it was soon that I was looking at my second fish in the net, a lovely mirror of around 11 pounds. That'll do. Fish number 2. Get the rod back out, sharpish, more bait, and hopefully get another one. I was really building the swim now, and I soon had this really nice stocky in the net. It was absolutely stunning. Credit to the guys at Bluebell for the stocking program they've got going on. It was a perfect linear, and it looked like it's going to pack loads of weight on in the future. So, second bite of the morning. 5 more spoms after the first fish. This bite's come pretty quickly after it. Like a pretty penny, this one. It's an absolutely brand new stocky, but it's most welcome. Give me a nice bite. And it's proof that the spot's working really nicely. Hopefully it's a sign of more things to come. With that stocky slipped back, I soon had the common carp on the mat. While I was weighing the fish, I got another take, and I was soon attached to my 3rd carp of the session. Oh, got a bite.
You're right, go and drop it. Go, 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 go.
Middle rod. About to show you really nice common I caught at first light. Came out, it was in the retainer, and I've literally popped it down, and the middle rod's busted off straight away, and we're into fish, took line straight away. Yeah, boy. With that fish in the net, it finally allowed me to get that common out to have a nice look. Absolutely immaculate common of 28.5 pounds. It's one of the best commons I've caught for looks. It's stunning. Its mouth was absolutely immaculate. Testament to the Bluebell stock. Well, look at that. 28.5 pounds. First fish off the spot at first light. It's cool kinky tailed common. Cultured pop-up hanging out of his mouth on the way in. And it looks awesome, man. I'm well happy, well happy. While I was weighing this fish, I got another bite. A lovely little mirror, which I'll show you in a minute. We slipped him in the net just to show you this blinding carp, and it's just a case of keep topping up, keep applying them baits, keeping the rigs out there as regular as possible, and you can get lovely fish like this. The 3rd and final fish of the morning was this lovely 15-pound mirror. It looked really nice and old, and it sort of ceased the action for the morning. That morning feeding spell was testament to how effective the tactics have worked. 3 rods on a spot, concentrating the bait, produce that nice hit of fish. It couldn't be simpler to do. It's quite simply a case of staying accurate, tight with your bait, and giving them what they want ultimately. Fish are moving around the big shoals, they're feeding regularly, and you need to supply them with the bait that they need. And as a result, you don't need to be too technical on your rigs and baits. Pick something nice and reliable that you can easily retie quickly, or you can retie multiples of, and make sure that you've got your rigs and your baits all perfect, so as soon as you get your bites, you're replacing that rod repeatedly and just repeating the process. It's simple as that. Absolutely love day ticket fishing. Some of the most stunning carp in the country are available on a day ticket. Bluebell is absolutely no exception. There's 50-pounders on the complex, open access to everybody. I like to take a break from my syndicate fishing, my club water fishing, to try and make the most of these situations, get out, catch some carp and some big ones too.